Up and at you a couple early here on Game Day Scoreboard because a decisive end in Green Bay, 34-20 Tampa. From Florida, heading into some cold weather, maybe a little mist, some rain at Lambeau. No issues for Baker Mayfield and a perfect passer rating of 158.3, 22 of 28, 381, 4 touchdowns, and a big win for the Bucs. Let's get you back out to the historic Lambeau Field where some history was made here. Just the second perfect passer rating in the history of that stadium to go with Aaron Rodgers back in 2019. Tiki Barber, Matt Ryan joining us with their thoughts coming off the call here, fellas. Got to start with Baker, Matt. What impressed you most about this performance in a spot that everyone had drawn up as a tough one for Tampa?
I think it was just his precision, over the middle of the field. I mean, he was aggressive with tight window throws the entire day, and his accuracy was on point.
Yeah.
To me, I watched it the entire, getting prepared for this game, watching him the last couple of weeks. He kind of looked out of sorts, and today he was firing on all cylinders.
You're right. He couldn't complete passes at a high clip the last couple of games. Actually, 48.3% exactly the last 2 games. But he was gaming, right? He'd get down to the end of games, and he would make those plays. Well, today, it was from the very beginning. Tight window throws, as you mentioned. A lot of reliance on Chris Godwin in this game. Even though the touchdown was to Mike Evans early, Chris Godwin was a godsend for him on 3rd down. He had 160 or so yards receiving, and every time they needed to make a play, it was available because Baker was on point. They didn't run the ball as effectively as they have in the previous couple of games, but it was just enough for them to influence what the Green Bay Packers were trying to do defensively.
And it was clear. It was clear from the start. Their plan was to hammer the middle of the field in the passing game and try and take advantage of the linebackers, and specifically Devondre Campbell. He just never really had a chance to kind of cover Chris Godwin the entire day. Baker Mayfield played awesome.
Yeah, still assertive in moments in that run game, as you said there, Tiki, complimenting what Baker did here through the air. I want to take you to the other side of this one because this was a Packers team that 3 weeks ago felt like they finally had that arrow pointed in the desired direction. And you drop one to the Giants, you drop one at home here to Tampa Bay. How do you characterize, Tiki, what we've seen over these last 8 quarters of football, or lack thereof, out of Green Bay?
Well, I don't think these last 2 losses should take away from the job that Matt LaFleur is doing this year. This is the youngest team in the National Football League, and even on the offense where Christian Watson has been phenomenal, he's been out for 2 weeks, and they've relied on a young and developing still Jordan Love, along with a bunch of young wide receivers. There's not one pass catcher, including the tight end, who is over a second year. They're either second years or rookies, but they've stepped up and make plays. They just didn't have enough firepower in this game to outstand a very well-executing Bucs team.
And I thought this one was much different than the Giants game.
Yeah.
Like, this was a back-and-forth battle for most of the game until really the end of the 4th quarter where Tampa was able to pull away. But you mentioned the job LaFleur has done with the young group, and he's done it overcoming injuries to key guys. Like, his best receiver's been out, A.J. Dillon out today, and they still give themselves a chance. I think this team's a year away. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch in 2024 because I think that young group has a lot of firepower.
Yeah, the challenge for them, though, like it was for the Buccaneers, they're 6-7, so they're kind of on the edge of the wild card. The Bucs, however, at 6-7, were leading their division, and now they have another game up on the division with the Atlanta Falcons losing to the Carolina Panthers, whereas for the Packers at 6-7, they're sitting 3rd and 4 games behind the Lions. So they had an uphill climb anyways. This kind of puts them out of it a little bit, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to fight going forward. There's still a lot of development that can occur over these last 3 weeks.
You mentioned the division there on the Tampa Bay side of things. This is a step towards the hats and T-shirts, no doubt. It's been a down year in the division, down couple years. Doesn't have the teeth that Matt Ryan knows well there in that division. But this is going to be a matchup with whatever that wild card team is that probably won't be favorable for whoever comes out of the division, Matt. But are we starting to look at Tampa a little bit differently after a quality win like this on the road in a tough place to play?
Oh, absolutely. I think somebody's got to win that division, right? Yeah. Somebody's going to have to win it. And I think it is Tampa because of 2 things. Rashad White and his ability to run the football would have gone over or equaled 100 yards if he would have scored on that last play, which would have been pretty cool to see. But I thought it was an
unselfishly takes a slide. Forget that. Go score the touchdown. They're not coming back from 21.
But the other reason is if Baker Mayfield can play like he did today, to me, that's the X factor for him. If he can come out there and if they're required to throw the football to win and he can have the trust in the group that he has around him like he did today and fire that ball over the middle, I got to imagine they're the favorite in this last 3 weeks.
And I think the other side is what Todd Bowles is doing defensively. Like they're not world beaters on defense, but they do have some playmakers over there. Antoine Winfield's a name that you'll hear a lot, but he's had to make some tough decisions, right? Putting David White down, a coach's decision today. He started KJ Britt in his place, and they're going to have to make some plays on that side of the ball, especially when they get to the postseason, as you were alluding to, Joe. Right? Do they have a shot? The answer is yes, if defensively they can hold up and offensively Baker gives what we saw today.
Matt Ryan and Tiki Barber breaking it down here on the tail end of a convincing win from those Bucs. Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
And don't forget, you can watch all your NFL on CBS action this season on Paramount+. More than 100 games streaming on P+, including the AFC playoffs and Super Bowl 58 on CBS and streaming on Paramount+. And an official welcome into Game Day Scoreboard presented by Geico. Joe Musso alongside Bryant McFadden. B-Mac, big win here for Baker and the Bucs in that spot. Unexpected, I think, by many to go into Lambeau this time of year. I mean, it's not kind to visitors in December and January. Yeah. What stood out to you about Baker's performance here and really just the momentum and flow of that offense?
I mean, Baker Mayfield today in Lambeau Field looked like Aaron Rodgers used to look in a Green Bay Packers uniform. In a day where running the football, it was kind of optional. They had success here or there, but they relied on the arm of Baker Mayfield. I mean, outstanding numbers: 22 of 28, 381 yards, 4 touchdowns. He was 7-11 on third down opportunities. Their defense had some issues here or there, but anytime they needed a big play, Joe, Baker Mayfield stood up. He stood out. He played with so much confidence, man. This is a guy, if you can continue some of these same skill sets moving forward for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you have to like their chances to win a watered-down division in the NFC South.
We just heard Matt and Tiki talking about it. It is a year away, or so it appears, for Green Bay. It felt like this might be a year where they can sneak into the playoffs. Now, how relevant they would be come postseason time is another conversation, but now the question becomes, what are those missing pieces that you saw here on Sunday for Green Bay that's keeping them from being a right-now team?
Well, I was surprised to see the lackadaisical start in moments for this Green Bay Packer team, knowing and understanding the situation, right? We saw the Minnesota Vikings lose yesterday to the Cincinnati Bengals. In Minnesota and Green Bay, they kind of in the same neighborhood when you talk about the playoff aspirations. So one would think the Green Bay Packers would start off with a fiery of momentum. Then also you have to factor in the last time the Green Bay Packers played, they lost to an undermanned team in the New York Giants on a primetime stage. So finding a way to get back in the winning column was important, but we didn't really see the sense of urgency that I thought I would see for 4 quarters. And defensively, what's going on with the Green Bay Packers defense? Because the last time we saw them there in Lambeau, they were playing outstanding football. They were harassing the opposing quarterback. They had outstanding play on all 3 levels. Today, against a team that has kind of been up and down offensively, especially at the quarterback position with Baker Mayfield, they had no answer. So you didn't get the best effort from Jordan Love, but it wasn't like they didn't show up and do some pretty good things. They made some plays. They scored 20 points. But to allow 34 points, to allow almost 400 yards to Baker Mayfield and 4 touchdowns, that's something that you can't do because all of the experience is on the defensive side. You look at Jordan Love, you look at all the young wide receivers, you look at some of those guys that are still trying to figure things out on the offensive side, you would think the defense would be able to kind of weather the storm a little bit. They did not do so, and because of that, they allowed a big opportunity to squander through their fingers when you talk about trying to get into the tournament.
Well, let's get to the action from Lambeau. Buccaneers and Packers